Hello, this is Jessie Rodriguez Melendez from All Bases Covered, and welcome to Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV channels 249, 250, and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Welcome to this week's edition of All Bases Covered. I am your host, Jessie Rodriguez Melendez, and I'm so excited to bring this broadcast to you guys specifically today because I'm going to be joined by someone who's very dear to us personally, and also to someone that I admired and considered my business idol, really, for so many years. And so I just thought I'd give you guys a little bit of background on our relationship and how it all got started. So I am speaking of Ray Negron, who was actually introduced to us by a very dear friend named Rich Mancuso when we owned our baseball training facility in the Bronx, New York. As some of you may or may not know, my husband Tony and I owned and operated a baseball and softball facility, truly to inner city. And through that, we had built up all these great relationships. And one of them was with the Yankees. And I want to just let everyone know that the Yankees were incredibly, incredibly generous to us in their efforts to help us expose kids from our academy to baseball games and to opportunities that perhaps they would have never had gotten. Um, and I just want to be clear, they never gave us monetarily, but with their efforts by providing us tons and tons and tons of tickets for our kids to be able to go to games, all free, and their families. So it wasn't just for the players; it was for all of our kids. And for many years, the Yankees did that. And this was something that I held so dear to my heart because, as I mentioned, my very favorite person in business that I idolized was just George Steinbrenner. And prior to meeting Ray, I had always dreamed of meeting or becoming associated to the Yankees, mostly because I admired what he did in the world of baseball, how he had transformed and really, created something so amazing out of baseball, and made it a sport that was worldwide. And so I remember my first day meeting George Steinbrenner's son, Hank Steinbrenner. And I was just so thrilled to meet him. I thought that it was such an amazing opportunity to, although George Steinbrenner had already passed, but in meeting Hank, and if anyone has ever met Hank Steinbrenner, he has also passed. He's now deceased, but anyone who had the opportunity to meet Hank, it was like meeting George Steinbrenner. I mean, they looked so much alike. And so I remember the day that I actually got introduced to him by Ray at an event that we had um, conducted. It was a special event that Ray would do for Hank's Yanks. It was an inner city youth program, baseball program, and Ray would do fundraising through Hank's Yanks and through this specific golf outing that he would run. And that's when we got the opportunity to meet Hank. And one of the things that Tony was wanting to do was tell Hank how much I admired his dad. And I remember the conversation distinctly because Tony, when he approached us and we got introduced, Tony said, your dad was her business idol. And Hank just like almost instantly responded to Tony. He was an amazing, amazing business person. He was an amazing father, husband, family man, but he was truly an MFer as a boss. And, some people would have said, oh, yeah, I could see that being the case. George Steinbrenner always came off as this man that was very rough and, you know, uh, abrasive. But after doing so much research about him and knowing the true philanthropist that he was at heart, and then later being told some amazing stories by Ray about him, and Ray will share some of these when I bring him on. um I just was so impressed, and I found that to be an incredible attribute. To be in the world of sports is very challenging, and more so now, because I find specifically with youth sports there's so much competition, and parents, specifically, I'm going to speak to parents. I'm going to implore you to allow your children to really enjoy sports. Let them have fun. It becomes so serious so young. I remember one time a woman calling the office, and she wanted to introduce us to this prospect. And I through asking her a series of questions, I then said to her, can you tell me how old the player is? And she said 5 years old, and I was just floored by the answer. And so I thought before I brought Ray on as a guest today, I would sort of give you guys a little bit of background, more background on who we are, what we did at this baseball facility, how did we then start this relationship, and get to further work with Ray and do some pretty incredible things that he opened up the door to for us. And so one of the big questions I always get is, how did I end up in sports? And so I ended up in sports because of my husband, Tony Melendez. Tony had been involved in the world of sports from the day I met him. He was actually on his way to a boxing gym where he was going to train with a couple of friends. And so I met Tony already, and he was already very involved in sports. What some people didn't know during the time that we had our baseball facility was that Tony was, a boxing champion. He had fought in the ring. He was a kickboxing expert, and he had already been training others. So he had always been very deeply involved. And in 2007, the beginning of 2007, he came to me and said, I want to open up a baseball facility, and I want to do it in the Bronx. I want to do it for kids like us. We were both from the Bronx. He's from Fordham Road and I'm from Castle Hill. And he said, I want to take all this baseball knowledge that I had. Tony had played semi-professionally in Puerto Rico, and really knew the game and was very passionate about the game. And he said, I want to open up a baseball facility in the Bronx. I want to train the youth. I want to mentor young people, and I want to help them get to the next level. I want to help them achieve higher education. And so in 2007, we embarked on this mission. And I remember thinking to myself, this man is crazy. But with the business background that I had, I said, I think I can make this all work. I had never worked in sports before. But I felt confident in the fact that I had worked in sports before, in the business world before, and I could take my skills in that, and I can hone it, and I can sort of make it so that I could make it work for the baseball facility. And so we opened on April 7th of 2007. And our very first week, we had 8 kids join. And I said, oh my God, this is so exciting. It looks like this is really going to work. We started really shoestring. Like it was such a tight budget what we were on. We had a banner as a sign outside. We had plastic chairs when people came in. I mean, it was really, really shoestring, but we made it happen. And we lasted at that facility for over 13 years. And so I say that I sort of got pushed into sports, and then became so in love with it and became so passionate about it that then I created many different services and programs. We created over 20 different avenues of revenue through this little tiny 3,500 square foot facility. And so why am I so passionate about helping sports coaches? Is because I see the huge impact that it can create on young people. And it's through this effort now and this mission that I'm on to really create opportunities for young people through sports. And the way that I can do it and reach the masses is by working with coaches. I get to teach them, I get to, you know, help them develop, scale, and launch using their expertise and touch as many young people as we possibly can. So that's truly the mission. The core of everything that I do is always based on that. How many young people can we touch through sports? What kind of impact can we create? And the truth is there's an immense amount of impact. And I'm super excited to say that over the next 18 months I will be helping some coaches in the Bahamas develop an 18-month program that's going to be specific for baseball development, and using our baseball homeschool models, how to work further with young people through that. um, and so I thought that it would be important for me to sort of give you more background on how all of this got started and why is it that I view what we do on a smaller scale, but you know taking the examples that I learned from watching an organization like the Yankees and the way they've done it all to excellence. And listen, no one is perfect. No one's perfect. And I know there's going to be a lot of opinions about who's the better team. We New Yorkers are so extremely competitive. And so I will say the Yankees, Tony's a Met fan. And so we're already divided in this household. But truly, the reason why I love the Yankees the way I do, and yes, it's because I'm a Bronx girl, absolutely. But more than that is because I love what George Steinbrenner did with the organization and what he did for baseball specifically through the Yankees. I love that it was a family business. I love that he involved his family in the business. And that's something that I can't wait to bring Ray on so he can give you further insight as to the type of man that George Steinbrenner was and the huge impact that he had on the community. And the things that a lot of people are not privy to about George Steinbrenner. I think you guys are going to be so super shocked to hear some of the stories that Ray will share about the incredible philanthropist that George Steinbrenner was. And so, uh, what am I helping to do on a daily basis with coaches? So I help coaches develop, scale, build their business if it means launching their business. So if they're launching a baseball program, let's say, and they really don't know how to design their programs, or they don't know what they should be charging, what are they worth? How long should they run a program for? Summer camp, clinics. How do they start their own baseball homeschools? That's all stuff that I'm helping coaches with now. I'll also mention that it's not just for baseball. I've also helped sports coaches in general. And I'm very passionate also about helping women sports entrepreneurs because I feel like it's an area that is lacking the attention it should be getting. So more women sports entrepreneurs are needed in this world of sports. And so I'm very passionate about helping other sports ladies get their businesses launched and scaled. And so I help with things like marketing. I'm helping a coach right now build out an online program that will include supplements, their own supplement branded and ready to be part of their program with apparel, setting up their own apparel line, which, by the way, Armored Athlete is my apparel line, and it is a scripture inspired apparel line. I call it, the slogan is wear the word. And that's another part to what I do is I'm passionate also about instilling morals and values into what we're doing through sports. I feel like it's so necessary right now with everything that's happening in our world that we really gear athletes in a very positive way, in a way that they feel confident, in a way that they feel empowered, because it's so needed now with everything that's going on. And so, some of the other things that I love about working with sports coaches is the fact that they get to hone in on their craft. They get to really explore the other things that they can do utilizing their expertise, utilizing their talents. Oftentimes coaches come to me and they're either ex-professional, players themselves. They got to play in college, let's say. And I've even had some coaches come to me that want to work with me and they say, I went to college, never thought that I would go into the world of sports, but now I'm in a world where I've got a degree for something that's not working for me and I really want to utilize my talents to create not only a business for myself, but that I could truly create an impact in my community. And so that's some of the stuff that I get to sort of help them develop. And it's just so empowering for me to watch someone take their gifts and talents and turn it into a viable business, something that they can actually sustain their life and their families with. And so it's truly the reason why I do what I do. So I'm going to go over a couple of questions that I get asked a lot until Ray's ready to hop on here with us, and it should only be another couple of minutes. So here are some. So, uh, why what's the toughest part of being in business with your spouse? That's one of the biggest questions I get. And interestingly enough, it's always worked out that although Tony and I are in business together, we're business partners in every business endeavor that we've ever launched. But the truth is that because our work is so different, Tony's working on the actual part of, the physical part of things, creating a fitness program or online videos or working with his clients. And some of you, may be privy to the fact that we have a gym right in at our home. During COVID, we had to create a working space. And so Tony created a gym right in our home, and he often sees clients here. Or for the most part, he's creating online products now, but he also uses the space for that. And my office is upstairs, so I work upstairs and he works downstairs. When we had the facility, oftentimes he was out, working with players out on the floor, and I was in an office. And so the truth is we hardly ever saw each other. We convene, we come together to have business meetings, to talk about future projects, to launch projects, which I'm super excited to say he will be launching a brand new product for men 40 and over that are wanting to get back in shape. And but this is the type of stuff that I first learned and got to do with my own family, with my husband and with my spouse and my partner. And through that, I learned that then I could help other coaches develop their own skills and expertise. And again, the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because I know that we're creating impact. And now the impact is global and now it's international. Although we had brought programs to the Bahamas, we had worked with this group of coaches to run a summer camp. Now we're going as consultants, and now we're going to be consulting other coaches in the Bahamas on how to actually set this program up and get themselves ready, and how to really make it effective for the player. Because again, at the end of the day, the coaches that I work with, the goal is for us to make their clients, their players, their athletes better. Not only better athletes, but better people, better human beings. And a big part of what we do is also through our mentoring. And I get to do that through my brain training certifications and my neuro encoding certifications, where I get to teach the tools and techniques on neuro encoding the actual brain so that we can create better people, better athletes in this world. And so I'll continue with some of the other questions that I've gotten. Uh, Homeschool, how did I come up with the concept? So I came up with the concept of our homeschool in 2018 because I saw a real need for the player. The athletes that were coming to our facility, what I was finding was that they were overworked. So they were coming straight from school and they were expected to to train hard. They were expected to give everything that they had, but the truth was there wasn't much left in their tank after doing 8 or 9 hours of school. Then they had school work, and then they were expected to come to us, not having really eaten a good meal. Um, and exhausted. And so I said, okay, how, if we're mentoring these young people and we're expecting them to give us the very best of themselves, how do we create a program that actually fits their needs and not the other way around? And so I created the Baseball Homeschool Institute. It was the very first of its kind in the Northeast. I'm very proud to say that. And the concept of the school was that players would come to us, we would become the school for them. One, it gave players and parents, the liberty to, online homeschool, so they would be able to travel anytime we needed them to. Liberty for parents to vacation at any time that they wanted. They didn't have to wait till the kid was, out of school for a certain period of time, because they could take school with them wherever they needed to go. And we set up the program originally to run from Tampa, Florida. We had a group of boys that actually moved to Tampa, and they were living on site for 10 months. And then COVID hit. And the beauty of how this all worked out for our players was that upon returning, our players didn't have to figure out how to go to school. Our players were actually able to continue school right online, because we had already started that process. They didn't first have to wait. And so I just found that, I don't know, someone's asking a question, so I apologize that I'm not sure I understand the question. But okay, I guess that's some kind of a promotion specifically for Spanglish World, maybe. I'm not sure. But anyway, so our players never got affected because they were able to continue homeschooling right through their online experience with the Baseball Homeschool Institute. And so they didn't skip a beat, and they actually were able to continue their workouts because we set up the system so that they would be able to go to school during the day, just they had the way they had been, and then they were jumping on to train with Tony. So those players actually, although they were affected, because the truth is that having that personal interaction as an athlete is super important. It creates impeccable social skills, helps them to really become team members, helps them develop as players mentally, physically, and emotionally, and spiritually, even. And, there's nothing like having that, physical um, experience as an athlete. But with the hardship that we had all endured, we gave them a really great option, and that was to continue their studies and to continue training so that when it came time for them to get back on the field, they were prepared. And so, Baseball Homeschool Institute, it's something that truly transformed the way we were bringing um, baseball programs to our athletes, and something that we're truly proud of, and something that we want to expand. And so now I'm able to do that with the coaches that I'm working with. And something that I had actually gotten to introduce to the Yankees at one point, and they loved the concept. They absolutely loved the thought of having baseball become the tool for us to guide these young people through school and for higher educational purposes. And so, super proud of that. Um, let's see. So, what are some of the other things you've done besides sports business? That's a great question. So, I managed um, dental facilities, multi-million dollar dental facilities, for most of my uh, adolescent life, I would say. I started in dentistry when I was 16 years old. And it's actually what helped me design the programs and the business system when we got started in the baseball training facility, because I took the concept of how I was running these multi-million dollar dental practices and I implemented it into what we were going to be doing at the baseball facility. And so one of the biggest tips that I can offer to coaches out there that are wanting to get started in the sports industry is, I say start where you are. Start where you are. Use your expertise by d- delivering one-on-one opportunities first, right? So you and a player start that way. And then the way you can actually build it out is then you can start by seeing, instead of one to one, you can go one to many. And then you can scale it out as, you build up programs. The way you scale it out is then you start hiring other coaches so that you can start building other programs and they can sort of stay focused on the programs that you've already built. So that's sort of the model that I used when we started the baseball training academy. And I, this is the way I work with coaches too. I tell them, start where you are, use what you have. If it's a field, if it's an indoor, school gym, if it's your basement, whatever you have, use what you have. Now for baseball, that can become a little bit more complicated, because when you're, needing to train or teach hitting, let's say, you need more space for something like that. But you can certainly, work out something with your local little leagues, or you can work out something with your local, rec organizations, or even your town. If you go to your the towns, the town halls, or any of those, and you tell them, share what you're wanting to do, tell them that you want to create a program for your community. And so many are open to it, especially now. They know that this is needed. They know that this is something that will overall impact not only the player, but as those players grow and mature, they come back, to be part of the community and be of service to the community. And what a great way to do that. And so that would be my advice to any coaches that perhaps may be watching now and are wondering, well, how do I get started? And what's an inexpensive way to start too, right? So an inexpensive way would be that start where you are, start in your community, start by offering one-on-one coaching opportunities, hook up with your local little leagues, hook up with your local rec organizations, and get yourself out there. Let people start knowing. People need to know who you are and what you're offering. And so I would say do it that way. And then of course, you can market yourself right on social media. You don't necessarily need a website to get started or anything like that, but you certainly do need to get yourself out into your community. And the best way to do that is to connect with those that are in your community and that perhaps are already involved in the sport. Also become involved with any events that are going on in your community, and also your chamber of commerce. That's another great way to start, is just start getting yourself engaged in the events that perhaps are run through your local chamber of commerce. And also hook up with other coaches, because the more you get to know more people, the more you'll hey, so look who just popped up on my screen. Ray Negron. Okay, I lost him now. Let's hope he comes back on. um, so hook up with your local chamber of commerce, and hook up with other coaches that perhaps are already involved in the very thing that you're looking to do. And, be an impact. Sports is such a great way for us to create massive communities. The reason I know that this can be done anywhere is because we've done it almost anywhere and everywhere. We started in New York. We then built out a program in Houston, Texas. And then we built out the same kind of program in Orlando, Florida, and then Tampa, Florida. So you absolutely can do this anywhere. And now we're going to be doing more of it in the Bahamas. And so baseball is something that's universal. It's something that you can do, again, almost anywhere if you have a field. And I actually have a young man in Africa that I have sort of consulted with, and given him some ideas. And the kids started with nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing, no equipment. Started on literally a dirt field. There was no grass, no nothing. And he started with literally, I think it was a bat and a ball and one glove. And but he was so passionate about creating, a program for the kids in his community. And we're talking about a community of kids that had never really played baseball. They didn't really understand the game. And the kid that wanted to teach it didn't really understand it either. But he knew that he could learn. He knew that he could take the information that we were sharing and create something out of it. And I'm really excited to say that that kid today has over 100 kids in his program in Africa, and has it is, I mean, changed his whole community, changed what's going on with kids there. Hey, can you hear me now?
Are we on?
I Yes, we're on. I can hear you now. Are you at the stadium?
Hold on. I'm going to move inside.
Okay, so
I'm
you're at
going
the
to,
stadium.
yeah.
How exciting.
How is that? Better?
Awesome. Love it. So allow me to please let me introduce you properly because this deserves the right introduction. I don't just want to have you hop on a screen here. I want people to know who you are, what you do. Please help me welcome to All Bases Covered, a man that we consider not only a wonderful friend, but he is a best-selling author. He is a humanitarian like none I've ever seen. He is a compassionate man who's always out there doing for the community. He is um, just an incredible father, husband, and a great friend. And so I want to welcome Yankee executive Ray Negron to the show. Ray, it's so awesome to have you on. I'm super excited for people to hear more about you, the things that you have gotten to experience because of this crazy encounter that happened many years ago for you. So let me start by asking you to please share, how did you get associated to the Yankees?
Well, first off, I'm showing you the hallway as I'm walking to a quiet zone. I
Uh-huh.
see all my
So
friends
we're
over
getting
there.
a little bit of a private tour
A
of
little
the areas
like a
of the
little
Yankees.
private thing. Hold on.
This is Yankee Stadium, a little bit of the back areas that we don't generally see of Yankee Stadium.
How about that? Look at this.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then you see the subway.
Yes.
And that field that you see over there, that's the old Yankee Stadium, the
Old
original.
Yankee Stadium.
So,
Wow.
hey, it's what I call the real Yankee Stadium.
A real Yankee Stadium. I agree. I've always said that too, Ray. I like the new stadium, but I don't think anything compared to the old
Never,
the original stadium.
never will.
So please tell us, how did you become associated to the Yankees? I know the story, but I want our audience to know.
In 1973, I was outside Yankee Stadium doing graffiti with a couple of guys, and all of a sudden a car drove on the sidewalk, and two guys jumped out. We all start to scatter. I trip over one of the guys. I'm caught. I'm put in a holding cell. As they're putting me in the holding cell, one of the security guards says, that's where he belongs. There's nothing you can do for them." And the other guy all of a sudden said, "Give me the kid." And next thing you know, they're dragging me to the Yankee locker room, and they made me the Yankee bat boy. And after the game was over, the guy that made me the bat boy came back and said, "Did you like your job?" I said, "I loved it." He said, "You want to keep it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Then you're going to prove this guy wrong. You're going to prove that you can be a better person. But don't you F me. Don't you F me." And that man ended up being George Steinbrenner, who I brought the team that year. That's how
Yeah.
my life with the Yankees started.
I love that. And just so people understand a little bit more of how that story for me was very impactful. You're a Latino kid from the Bronx, right? At the time, Puerto
Well,
Rican.
let me put it to you like this. In my house, there were 6 boys.
Hmm,
And of the 6 boys, I'm the only one that didn't go to prison. And of the 6 boys, I'm the only one that's alive. So,
wow.
so did that impact me? I kind of think it did a little bit. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I feel that I'm still paying back. I'm still paying back. And the one thing that he worked on with me was I really lacked self-esteem. I didn't think that I belonged. I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that I was just anybody per se. And it has taken a lifetime to gain that esteem, to feel like I am somebody in this world.
Mm.
After he died, I'm going to be honest with you. After he died, uh, I felt knocked down a little bit. He told me how it was going to be after he was gone. He had told me that. And like he said, don't think that anybody's gonna do for you like I did. So you got to watch yourself. You got to stand on your own, and you got to have thick skin. And when they say whatever they say, do.
And how long have you been with the Yankees organization now, Ray? Oh, Ray. Oh, I can't hear. I can't hear. Give me 1 second, Ray. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Did we lose audio? I think it's your connection, Ray. All right. While Ray comes back on, yeah, some of the okay, okay, I'll log out and log in. Let me see if it's my connection. Hold on 1 second. Oh, Ray. Okay. We'll have Ray log out and log back in. So again, just getting this little I've always felt after knowing a little bit about George Steinbrenner and then hearing a story like that. Ray, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So we have Ray Negron back with us. So I was just saying that, I think I've shared with you that George Steinbrenner for me he was my business idol. I just thought he was the most phenomenal human being prior to knowing you and hearing some of these spectacular stories about George Steinbrenner. Did I lose? Oh, we lost Ray again. Um, these live shows can be very challenging if you're not in the right spot. And obviously, Ray's in the stadium, so it becomes a little challenging, I'm sure, for him. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that George Steinbrenner for me was a business idol. I absolutely loved him. So when I got to meet you and you started to share these incredible stories about this man, it just made me feel that much more closer and have so much more admiration for him as a person. And I remember the first time you took us to the Hanks Yanks event, where you used to so passionately help us with inner city youth through our baseball programs. And I knew Hank Steinbrenner was going to be there. And I was so excited about meeting him because I felt like I was one stepping back into history, like it was like touching George Steinbrenner in a way. And also, just being able to hear from his perspective. And he said to Tony, he said, because Tony says to him, your dad, her business idol. And he says, my dad was an amazing man, an incredible father, but he was an MFer as a boss. And so Tell us a little bit of that side of George Steinbrenner, because I know you got to witness it firsthand. He was a tough
No,
kid.
I mean, there's two sides. The business side, he was the toughest man I ever met from the business perspective. He was tough, he was strong, he was demanding, and he wanted things his way because his way he knew was the right way. And then there was the friend. He was my friend. People get, he wasn't my father or anything like that. He was my friend. He was a very, very good friend who respected me the way I was supposed to respect myself.
I
You
love
know,
that.
and that was something that he has taught me. And when I have bad days, I always think about him and the things that he would say. And I've had some bad days. Today was a really bad day for me.
Mm,
I mean, because people think that just because I work for the Yankees that everything is, like lollipop, and it isn't. It's tough because you're dealing with so many different, I call characters, and
mhm.
just and you're dealing with so many egos and everything else, and it's and you have to a lot of times hold yourself back from wanting to scream
Right.
per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah,
And
and I was saying that earlier too, Ray, that the business of sports is not an easy business. It's a tough, you have to have tough skin to be in the business of sports. Not only obviously as an athlete, but as a business entrepreneur.
well,
You have,
the business part of it is tougher.
yeah,
Okay, whether people want to believe that or not, it's the aspect of, hey, being the Yankees is one thing, but being the greatest brand in the world is another thing.
absolutely.
And these are the things that you have to work on, and it takes every fabric of the person, of the people, of the company to make it that. And there that lies the other thing, because many people don't get the credit that they deserve, but they have to stay there and be like one of those parts, like a part in a Mercedes. You still have to the part that goes in the wheels is not the same as the part that goes in the engine. Is not the same as the part that goes in the muffler as a part. I mean, it's just, and it's the same thing here. It is the same thing here.
But George Steinbrenner, although he was known with that tough exterior and that, grit kind of personality, also had a really great heart. I mean, I've heard you say stories, I mean, including your own, but things that he would do for the community. Um, he was a real philanthropist at heart, right?
Well, the most important thing about him is that he was great with kids. He made kids feel good, and in turn made him feel good. And one of my favorite story inside the ballpark is the time when, look, sometimes, you look at the upper deck and it's empty. And
Mm.
so I used to, like, in essence, bring kids in and take them to the upper deck, and security would get mad at me. And so they in turn would go to him and say, Ray Negron is at it again. And I'll never forget one time he said, one guy went and said, Mr. Steinbrenner, I think he snuck in about a dozen kids. And the boss said, get his ass over here right now. Okay? And so when I walked in to the office, Mr. Steinbrenner said to the security guy, I got it from here, Bill. Good job. And the guy leaves. And then he turned to me and he said, how many? And I said, I think about 13. And he went into his pocket, pulled out $200 and said, go feed them and get them whatever they want.
I love it. I
Okay. And that was the man. But you know what? That was our thing. I couldn't say, no one was supposed to know that.
But can I say this? I want people to know this. Anyone that's watching, that's what you do.
Well, I learned from the master,
I was just going to say he
you
taught you
know.
so well, because this is what I've witnessed you doing many times at our baseball facility. I've seen you do it with many other organizations. You're super passionate about the youth and wanting to keep kids off the streets. With everything that's happening, especially in the borough of the Bronx now, which you are in and out of on a daily basis. Um, what can we all do more of? What should we be doing
It,
more
it, it, It's too easy that it won't get done. That's the
Mm,
problem.
mm,
And, and it's that one simple word, love. We can
mm,
love our kids more. And if we loved our kids more, then we would concentrate more on them than in the violence and everything else that's going on. If
mm.
we loved our kids more, we wouldn't have time to go out and buy a gun. If we loved our kids more, then you know what? You wouldn't be talking about guns in front of them. Okay, and in turn, they think that it's good to go and buy a gun or to pick up a gun or whatever the scenario may be. And it's just too easy. Listen, the Beatles made a fortune singing about love. Okay, so I mean, it can't be that wrong.
Yeah. And with you saying the Beatles, I know you've met the who of who's through your relationship with the Yankees. Is there anyone you wish that you would meet or that you could have met?
I wish I wish I would. You know, I was very friendly with Mr. Sinatra. I wish that I could have met Elvis.
And you never got the opportunity to.
No, no, and it's ironic because I got to know his wife later on, but I would have loved to have met Elvis Presley. And the reason for that is because of his heart.
Yeah,
He had one of the greatest hearts
I agree.
from the standpoint of doing for people, especially for people of color.
Yes.
And that really always hit me, you know. And I thought that that was beautiful. And Mr. Sinatra was the same way. They were very similar in that, you know,
Yeah.
except for Mr. Sinatra could be more like George Steinbrenner, very tough, very strong-willed. You better do it his way, or else you were going to get smoked. But he was a wonderful person to know.
Yeah. Elvis is one of my favorites too. I love him. I encourage young people, if you don't know these names, go out and look them up and learn who these men were. They were spectacular. George Steinbrenner, Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, and we still have Ray Negron here. So look him up. Incredible man. Um, I'm going to ask you a question that may, ruffle some feathers, but I have to
Let's
ask.
go. Go ahead. I'm not afraid of anything.
I know that George Steinbrenner and Donald Trump were very good friends. What do you think, Mr. Steinbrenner, the boss, what kind of advice would he be giving Donald Trump right now?
Well, the reality to that is that the boss was friendly with Donald Trump's father.
Mm,
Okay, that was the relationship. Him and Fred Trump. Fred Trump was a big real estate guy, etc. So, in essence, as time progressed, Donald Trump was a teenager. I knew him back in the '70s, and as time progressed, Trump would call Mr. Steinbrenner all the time to get advice because he was getting ready to buy a football team called the New Jersey Generals at the time.
mhm. Yep.
So he got into that, and the boss always, like, I would be sitting in the office with Mr. Steinbrenner, and all of a sudden the secretary would say, Trump on two. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? Stuff like, and that happened all the time. And Trump was talking to him about running for president back in the '80s.
mm.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't know whether he was kidding or not, but the boss, well, I remember the boss once saying, "I don't think you're going to be that good a president if you don't change your attitude."
Wow. And that's what I loved about George Steinbrenner, right? He always like really kept it real.
Oh yeah.
Um, so unfortunately we're running out of time here, Ray, but I will have to have you back because there's so many wonderful things that I want people to hear about you, about your work, about the things you're doing for the kids in the Bronx and the communities that you're so involved in. I want people to know that Ray has two excellent books, Henry and Me and Bat Boy, that you can absolutely. How can people get to you, Ray, or to your? Do you have a website or something
No,
we
well, just Google Ray Negron, and yeah, and all my books and movies are all out there. So you know you can. There's 5 books that you can to choose from, and there's at least 10 movies that I have appeared in that you could also see. The last one being Bottom of the Ninth with Sofia
Yes.
Vergara. You know
And
that was.
my son, Anthony
Oh,
Melendez.
that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yep. And another door that Ray opened up for our family. So we are forever indebted to you, Ray. We love you.
No, that
We
was fun. It was
celebrate
fun to have
you.
him on. I enjoyed having him on. He's a pleasure.
Yeah. So please stay tuned for part 2 with Ray Negron. I promise to have him back because there's just so much wonderful conversation that we can have. But this show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Remember to make it an amazing day on purpose. And I will see everyone next week for a new edition of All Bases Covered. We'll see you then. Thank you for watching.